Hi everyone. Um, my okay, I'm gonna try it again. So hi everyone. My name is Eeva-Jonna Panula or Eevis Panula, and we're going to talk about personalizing accessibility today. If you've ever worked with accessibility, you might have been in a situation where you've realized that the access needs are different for different people. I can give you an example. For example, with the crafts, if you have some crafts in your app, some people might enjoy them. They might like really love to see the data in a craft format. But then there are some people who probably don't understand at all what's going on there, or it's hard to understand what's going on those crafts. And for those people, if the data is available only in crafts, then the data is inaccessible. And that's a problem, I would say. And that's why today I want to talk to you about personalizing accessibility. And I'm going to explain in a bit what I mean with it. Then let's see, okay, technical problems, and now it's working. So before actually diving into the topic, a couple of words about myself. So I mentioned my name is Eeva-Jonna or Eevis, and I'm accessibility specialist and senior Android developer. I work at Aura. I'm from Finland. That's something that I always forget to say, but now I remembered. I'm also Android GDE, so Google Developer Expert, and Women Tech Makers Ambassador. And I really love to share what I've learned. I've read a blog, and there's going to be a link to that later if you're interested. And I also speak mainly about accessibility, but sometimes about other topics as well. And I'm a disabled person myself. I'm going to say a couple of words about that later in the talk. And when I'm not doing something work-related, I really love to explore the beautiful Finnish nature by either a kayak. Here's a picture, actually, from one of the trips I've made with my kayak that I really like. It's white and pink, and yeah, it's an awesome one. I could talk about it for a long time, but I'm just gonna continue here that I also do some other sports on the when not talking about or thinking about work. But that's about me. So what we are going to talk about today. First, we are going to talk about what do I mean when I say personalizing accessibility and why that's important. And then I'm going to give you 2 examples with code. This whole talk is based on blog posts that I wrote. There's going to be a link to them in the end of the talk. So all the code you can see here, no need to write it all down. That's all available in those blog posts. So no worries about that. But yeah, personalizing accessibility. What does it mean? What do I talk about? Basically, I could say that I'm just talking about settings and adding accessibility settings, and then that way personalizing the experience to users or for users. And I had written something weird here, but I'm not gonna even guess what I meant with it. So I'm just gonna continue to the next slide I have. So here we have one example of those accessibility settings. This screenshot is from Slack, and it was taken sometime in spring. So I haven't checked if there are some new settings there, but basically they provide 5 different settings to customize your experience related to accessibility. And personally for me, I really love that they've given this opportunity to actually not see animated emojis or images or GIFs or anything like that there, because for me, seeing animations might trigger some really nasty symptoms. I really don't like feeling sick, physically, because there's always this, when I say that something makes me sick, everybody think that I'm just criticizing something, but when I'm telling this, I just mean that I get physically sick. So yeah, I have problems with animations. So I'm really glad that they provide this option as well. And then the other one that I really like here is underlining links, because I have so hard time usually understanding like what is a link, even though there is usually a subtle like color change or something, but links are rarely actually underlined for some reason. Well, there are some designers who really like to remove the underlining, but I'd like to argue that every link should be underlined so that like it's like you can actually know that it's a link. So yeah, these are some things that I need from here, I really like from here. And that's basically like a good example of what I'm talking today. And so yeah, there are like, or yeah, this is a good example of like in-app accessibility settings. But then something that I need to mention here are the like operating system or operating system level settings. So like, for example, Android has lots of different settings, accessibility settings, and every app should actually like respect those settings. So for example, there is this remove animation setting, which is usually luckily respected. That's something that I'm using. And if I saw, like if it wasn't respected, I would have lots of problems using apps, but it's usually respected. Then, for example, larger font sizes. I have a slightly larger font size than the default, and like apps should work with that and respect that. So those are the things that I could mention personally from there. But in general, apps should always respect these operating level settings, because when somebody turns something on that level, they really need it. So yeah. But today we are talking more about these like built-in settings. And well, why are we talking about them, or why they are important? Well, basically, as I mentioned in the beginning, access needs might conflict sometimes. And in some cases, personalization or like, for example, settings are the only way to actually make the apps as accessible as possible for as many users as possible. So like, I think that if we are building apps that we want to make accessible, we should need like consider this option. It doesn't work for every app out there, but like I would argue that many apps would benefit from this approach. And yeah, I of course as a developer recognize that it of course adds some complexity, and like when there are some sort of like customization options in the UI, for example, that actually like adds more work to maintain it. But again, I think that it's worth it. If we want to build accessible apps, sometimes this is the, well, I would say only way. Of course, every team needs to have the conversations about like trade-offs and everything, but well, if you ask me, I would just say go for it. It's worth it. All right. So now we are moving to the examples here that I have. I have two examples. The first one is about adding labels to like accompany icons. And what I mean with this is that many UIs have these icon-only buttons or other like interactive elements, and there is like no text label with them. But you know, there are pretty much, well, there are just a couple of like universal icons out there actually. So if you like think about, for example, an icon that's used for to convey this like edit action, I've seen like, I can think about like five right now, five different icons out there, and some of them are used in other actions in some other apps. So icons are not universal, and well, for some, it's okay to try to guess what like a button does, but for others, it might be really like anxiousness inducing when you are trying to guess that, okay, if I press this button, what happens? Like, do I edit this thing that I want to edit? Does my phone explode? Does something else happen? So I would say that always use labels with icons, but then again, I've been working as a software developer so long that I know that especially on mobile, many designers and developers want to actually hide the text labels for various reasons. So like, that's why I'm showing this like example here, how to like, well, give the control to user so they can choose if they want to see icon labels with icons or if they don't want to see them. And as I mentioned, like I'm going to show code going forward, and all of that code is available in a blog post, and like no need to write everything down here. And also another thing I want to say before going forward is that there are like some assumptions. I'm not going to show you how like I'm defining data store, preferences data store or anything like that, so you can assume that that's already handled. And the other thing is that I'm actually cutting some corners in this example and trying to make things pretty straightforward. So this is not like production level code. If you are having a like production app, you probably have like more layered architecture there, but I'm trying to make it like an example in the like in this talk. So like it's, well, I need to cut corners here and there for that. So for example, I'm like using the same view model for a lot of things in like production app. You would use that, like you would have multiple view models in these examples. But yeah, that being said, we can go forward and start talking about actual implementation. So what we are building here first is the settings screen. And in this screen, we have like, well, one setting basically right now. And that's like a toggle to toggle this, like say, show labels. And that's what we are going to start building and the functionality for that. And we're going to start things by defining a lot of things in settings repository, and I'm here just doing everything in the repository level with the data store. And because this is really small text, we're gonna talk it like piece by piece. So first we are defining a like key that we are using in the data store, and like in this case I've put it into an object that's called preference keys, and it's called show labels, and it's a Boolean preference key with the value of show underscore labels. And then we are moving to the next part. So we have a flow here that we are going to like, well, that's where we are going to get the value from data store. And it's like all pretty straightforward stuff if you've ever worked with data store. So we are here actually reading from data store, taking the like, well, the key that we just defined and like taking that value, or if it's null, then we are setting the value to true. And here is something that I like, I would recommend using like the as a default, the value that's like, well, those who would want to have this show labels, they probably like, to be able to navigate to the settings, this setting should be true, because as you're going to see later, in this UI, the settings is actually one like button, like icon button with this cog feel like icon. And if you don't know what it means, if you've never encountered it before, you probably won't find your way to settings. So that's why I would say that like the default value should be true. And then those who want to hide those labels, then they should actually like toggle it off. But this is again like debatable, but that's my recommendation here. So yeah, we are getting the value, and then the final piece here is that we define a like function to toggle the value there, because it's a well, we defined it as a Boolean value, so like we can just like take the old value and then set the value to the opposite. So if it was false, then we can set it to true. So, and this is again like we are calling the data store edit here and then doing these things that I mentioned. All right. Then we are moving to the next layer of our app, I would say. So settings view model. Yes, I'm reading it correctly here. Yeah, so here again, we have a couple of things that we are doing. This is again pretty straightforward. So first we define like the variables that we are using. So the internal variable show labels enabled with the underscore in front of it as a mutable state flow, and then show labels enabled, which is the one that we are exposing to the UI, and that's the previous one as state flow. Then we have a function get show labels enabled. I just realized that I had forgotten a private there in the the bigger one, so I got a bit confused. But anyway, we have this function where we are actually initializing the value for the one that we just defined there. So basically we are here in the view model scope, we are launching it and then collecting the show labels flow and setting it to the show labels enabled. And then this would be something that we would call in some initialization phase. Then the last function we have here is just to toggling show labels enabled. So that's, again, we are just calling the toggle show labels from settings repository we just defined. Then there is this final piece to this saving values part here. So we are building the UI, and I'm not going to go through the whole UI here. I just want to mention a couple of things. So how we are building this show labels toggle here is that we are wrapping it with a row that and then inside the row there are the text label and the switch, and we are hoisting the toggleable state or the action, everything to the row, because otherwise the touch target for this row this toggle would be just the small switch at the end. But this way, by clicking the show labels label there, you can toggle the value as well. And then in the switch, we are calling the clear and set semantics modifier just to clear the semantics, because if we don't do that, then there would be actually two switches for assistive technology. So when somebody is navigating with assistive technology, they would first encounter the row, and then the next tab stop or the stop where they would go would be the switch, and that's not good, because that's sort of too much. So making everyone's life easier this way. And so yeah, this was the way we were saving the values to data store, and now we actually need to use this, what we've done here and what we've saved there. And this is what we are building here. This is a small app that I created for the blog post. So it's messages to the internet. There are a couple of messages, and there is an opportunity to edit and delete them. And then on the top right corner, there is the settings button, as you can see if you compare them. So yeah, there are a couple of places where we have these icons or buttons with icons only. So yeah, the next thing what we want to do here is actually read the values and then do some customization based on what we've saved to the data store. So the first thing we are going to do here is to get the inside a composable. I just realized that I could have added some context here, but this is inside a composable. We are getting the show labels from the settings view model. This was the part where I said that I've done things pretty straightforwardly, but there would be another view model actually if you were building something like a real production app. And here we are getting the show labels enabled from settings view model and then collecting it as a state. Then there are a couple of things that we need to, or a couple other things that we need to finalize the functionality here. And first we need this, we need two composables, one for buttons with labels and one for buttons without labels. And this buttons with labels is basically a row that's wrapping two outlined buttons, and each of them have button content that I'm going to show in a bit. But basically, we're passing here like the text, so the label, and also the icon here to the button content, which looks like this. So we have an icon which has or takes in the icon, which is an image vector here, and then we set the content description to null here. And if you're wondering why we are setting it to null in this case, well, the text label that we have there, so like after the icon, we are defining the text or the label as a text composable there. So that's actually enough for the button to have like the text alternative there. So that's why we don't need to actually set anything to content description, or we need to set it to null so that like it's ignored, because it's decorative in this case. All right. Then there is another component, so buttons without labels, and in this case, it's again a row with icon buttons, and then the icons inside the icon buttons have the same icons as in the previous example, and then here the content descriptions are important because that's the only like text alternative for these buttons, because there is no like text component there. So that's why it's important to set the content description here, and it's important that it's actually like something meaningful, so that like a person who can't see this screen would know what happens from this button. So if there is this like pen, so the edit button, which is like it has a pen icon, the like content descriptions should actually be edit, because that's what happens from there, not pen, because that would be just confusing. Like imagine if the button with label would be just pen, you probably wouldn't know what happens from that one. So yeah. Then the final thing that we are doing here is that we are showing component based on the value that we are getting from the view model. So if show labels is true, then we are showing buttons with labels, and if it's false, then we are showing them the like button without labels here. And this way we get these two options that I showed you before. All right, that was the first example I was giving there. The other example that I'm going to give here is changing app theme. Why? Like we already have like dark and light mode in most apps available. Why should the app actually enable user to change the like app theme? Well, there might be cases where some users prefer their phone to be in dark mode and some apps to be in light mode, or like phone in light mode and then some apps to be in dark mode. Reasons might be, well, they might relate to content or the app function or pretty much anything. For me, it's sometimes been that I have my phone in dark mode, and the app that I was using, well, they didn't have really good color contrast on the dark mode. It was actually pretty bad, so I switched to using it in light mode. I was so glad that they actually provided this option. But if they didn't, then I couldn't have used the app in dark mode at all. So yeah. And what we are building here is, or like what we are, like what are the options that we are giving to the users. So this is again the settings screen, and here are the like color settings as a like a custom component where user can actually see the colors that are like available for each team there. And here we can see that we have 4 options. So system default, which is in this case dark mode. Then we have dark theme, then light theme, and then we have additional like high contrast theme, because some users might prefer their apps to have like this high contrast theme, which has reduced amount of colors and well, colors that are actually checked to be really high contrast, so that it's easier for them to use the app. So that's the example I'm gonna give here. All right, let's start from a setup phase here. So I've created this themext file where I'm defining the theme as an enum. And I have here dark, light, and high contrast. And then I've added this from function. Yes, it's from. Yeah, I have really like small text here, so like I'm trying to remember everything, but this was that I wasn't sure if it was from or parse. But that's basically taking in a string and then returning value based on that string. So if the string that is coming in, it's the value of, or well, it's like the dark theme, then we are returning dark. If it's light, then we're returning light, and then if it's high contrast, then well, high contrast. And then if it doesn't match any of these, then we return null. That's what we are going to use later. All right, then let's move the settings repository back there and start the whole process all over that I described with the settings without labels. So we're gonna add a new preference key here that's called color theme, and in this time it's string preference key, and it's called color underscore theme. And then we are defining a color theme flow, which is a type of nullable theme. And then we are reading the value from data store here, and then we are parsing it with the function from that we just defined in a couple of slides back. So basically, we are returning whatever comes from there, from that one. So if it's dark, then it's dark, and so forth. And if it's null, then, well, it's null. And then there is a function to set the color scheme. So that the function takes in a theme parameter called theme, that's type of theme that's nullable, and then sets the value of the color theme as that one converted to string. So that's the other piece here for writing to, or reading and writing from and to data store. Then in settings view model, we are doing the same thing. So first we define the variables there, internal, and then the one that we are exposing, so color scheme, and then the type is again nullable theme there. And then we have this function called get color scheme, and again we are reading it, collecting it from the color theme flow from the repository that we had, and setting the color scheme to the internal variable here. And then the final one here is to set color scheme that we can use then in the UI. And again, we are calling the set color scheme from settings repository. Then in the app side, or like the UI side, again, not gonna go through the whole code. I wanna mention something here. So this time we have list of options that are basically like you can select one of them. And last time we had the we had the toggleable modifier, but this time we actually want to use selectable modifier, because that's the right one from semantical point of view. If you are interested in learning more about these toggleable, selectable, and others, I've written a blog post you can find from my blog. So yeah, but this is just something that I hope that, like, if you remember something from this talk, you remember that there was something like this, and then you're gonna look it up. And then the parent component, so the previous one, this one here, is the basically like the one row of option, or one option there. So basically like one theme there. So we are setting like that's the place where we can select one of those options there. And then in the parent component, we want to set this whole group as a selectable group. So it's again a modifier. So this adds necessary semantics so that like assistive technology will know that, hey, there is actually a group of things, or or list of options where you can select one. So yeah, that's why we wanted to add that one. Then there's one more thing we need to do. So we actually, yes. Yeah, I think I've deleted one slide from here and got a bit confused. But yeah, so there is one thing that we still need to do. We need to actually like change the app theme there. And we can do it in the app theme composable. So I'm just gonna get go like, well, not line by line, but like part by part. So in the app theme composable, that's like if you create a new project, that's that's already created in the boilerplate code. So we're gonna actually edit that one and utilize that one there. So we're gonna add a new parameter there that's called theme, and its type of theme that's nullable, and we set the default value as null there. Now that I'm looking at it, no, yeah, yeah, forget. I was reading something else from my notes that I thought there. So yeah, we are adding the parameter here, and then if we zoom out a bit and then take the place where we are actually defining the app colors. So I think like in the boilerplate, this is just a simple if-else, or yeah, it is actually simple if-else. But now that we have more options than just two, we are moving it into a when. So here we are checking the value of theme. So if its value is dark, theme dark, then we are showing dark colors, which is a like set of colors there. And then if it's theme light, then we are showing light colors, which is again like defined in the theme. And then finally, sorry, if it's a high contrast colors or high contrast theme, high contrast, yeah, great. Then we are setting high contrast colors, which is a like set of colors that I've defined there. I'm not going to go through them, but it's a like limited set of colors. And then if the value is null, then we are actually checking if the system level setting, or like the system level theme is, if it's dark theme. So this is basically like use dark theme, which is let me take a step back. So here in the null branch is basically the thing that was in the boilerplate. So yeah, so we moved that there. So if the app or the phone uses dark theme, we're gonna show dark colors, and then if it uses light colors, then light. And yeah, I recognize that I'm like just a note, if you're ever talking, write really, really clear speaker notes that when you are reading them, you don't get really confused when you're on stage. So yeah, that's why I'm like a bit confused here, so sorry for that. Okay, moving forward. Yeah, so here is the last piece. So this is something that we are not actually changing in the app theme. So that's basically what the boilerplate gives. So we are setting the colors as the color scheme in the material theme component there. one more thing is that in the main activity where we are actually calling the app theme, there we want to read the color scheme value or collected as state from the settings view model. Again, this would be another view model, but for the sake of example, it's settings view model here. And then we are passing the value that we get from there to the as the theme. And this way, when we are actually changing, I should have an interactive example here, but I don't. But if there was, then pressing any of these options here would change the app colors already. And I have a screenshot of all the different options that I have here. And so basically we have the dark theme, we have the light theme, and then the high contrast theme, which is following pretty much the Windows high contrast theme color palette, or one of them actually there. So if you are wondering where those colors are coming from. All right, so if you want to check the blog posts that I've written, here is a link to the last one of them, and it has links to the previous ones, so that there is one more general, then one about the labels with icons, and then one about changing the app theme. So the address is tinyurl.com/personalizing-accessibility. And thank you for listening. My name is Eeva-Jonna Panula, or Eevis Panula. If you want to find me, my socials, my blog, everything is on my website, which is eevis.codes, so eevis.codes. And if you have any questions, well, I'm going to be here. I'm not going to take any public questions, but if you want to ask something, I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be around for a couple of more hours, so you can just come and talk to me later today. So thank you.